Alright, so I was just uploading a video response to Pastor Dowell. Another video of his, it's uploading right now. And I saw he did another video. People were asking him, what flavor of religion are you? What denomination or what are you? And he's doing a video response to that. And I guess what I gather is he doesn't really classify himself into any group of religion. He is strictly, he doesn't need a middleman. It's him in his Bible, the book, the scriptures, and that's it. He doesn't need a church or some kind of flavor of religion. I'm telling him their interpretation of that book. He has his own interpretation of that book, and I believe that's kind of his religion. That's kind of neat, actually. I like that. But he's going on a story, or talking about a story of Constantine, great Roman emperor back in the day. And it reminded me of a video I've been meaning to do for about a week now at least, by the late and great Martin Armstrong, who was put in jail illegally. He's basically a pretty heavy-duty financial expert, and the big guys, the club, didn't like him too much, and he ended up being jailed. He's recently been released, and he released something, several little documents and things, and one of them's called What Destroyed Rome. Now I'm going to try to read this fast so I can make, for once in my life, a short video. But this is the Roman Empire of 2,000 approximately years ago. Slightly before that, slightly after that, the span of the Roman Empire, the rising and the falling of it. And one key ingredient that he talks about here, you don't really hear about many people talking about that. Matter of fact, I don't know if I've ever heard it on any history that I've ever done on the Roman Empire. Everything else he talks about, I recognize and understood it. But there's one key ingredient so to speak, that I didn't quite know about. That was a problem for the Roman Empire, and you'll hear me talk about it. So I'm going to read this for you. History is a catalog of solutions. However, it is also a catalog of things not to do. Far too many people just ignore the past and assume there is nothing worthwhile even exploring. Don't waste your time. Trust us, right? This is why history repeats, largely because of the arrogance of mankind in assuming he is better than all of those who preceded him. I have been often asked why I came to see the world through an eternal battle between private and public interests, or people versus government. Effectively, aside from the fact that we invented the combustion engine, discovered radio waves that also enabled the development of computers, there is little else that is really a modern invention, right down to the form of government we have, which is a republic based upon Rome rather than a democracy based upon Athens. This is not a modern invention. A republic is where we elect representatives to go run for government and go run the government for us. In a democracy, every citizen has the right to propose laws and sits in judgment over the affairs of the state. Rome had its Senate, as does Washington. This isn't a democracy, as you're going to find out. You probably even think that to get a government pension, you had to work for 20 years. Is another modern socialist benefit based on Marx. Actually, that would be wrong. It was a Roman tradition that was used to entice people to sign up for the military, just as today people work for the government to eliminate any real risk or responsibility. For whatever reason, that ancient tradition of 20 years of service remained an expected benefit if you were to work for government that has been handed down through the centuries. However, the socialists have simply ignored the lessons of the past and adopted the very same pension programs that truly contributed to the decline and fall of Rome. Economically, it was precisely what we see today in our own society. Today, what has emerged as the government employees versus the people, such as in Greece, the same trend has infecting everywhere. Greece is merely a test run for what we will soon face in virtually all governments. And that is the key word I was telling you about: unfunded entitlements, such as pension systems. Keep that word in mind. Unfunded entitlements, aka pensions and the similar types of things. The above chart illustrates the growth in the Roman military. Don't really need to see the chart. From about 700 BC up. What we got here? Let me set that old bad boy to silence. I got some educating to do. The above chart illustrates the growth in the Roman military from about 700 BC through the fall of Western Europe in 476 AD, and showing the decline that became dominant in the East under what is known as the Byzantine Empire. This created the same problem we face today: unfunded pensions and entitlements. It seems to be inevitable that government promises the moon but never delivers. It may shock most readers to even assume that such data exists. In reality, there is far more data available on the rise and fall of Rome than there is during many medieval governments. The Romans were great secretaries, and much of the early writings of many contemporary historians have actually survived, and we're able to read them today. The coinage that has survived is truly amazing. Because of the political uncertainty and wars, people buried their cash for security. This has resulted in astonishing hoards that are found even today. This provides a snapshot of the money supply throughout the course of the years and gives us solid records as to the number of dies involved in striking the coins, since each die is hand-carved. We know that about 20,000 coins can be struck from each die before it breaks or becomes too worn. This is known from studies to recreate the striking of coins in modern times to establish this understanding of money supply. For example, Britain. There was the largest hoard of Roman coins ever discovered in July 2010. This pot contained 52,000 coins, and it's got a little picture of it. This was truly an amazing find. In December 2008, the largest find of Byzantine gold coins, 264 in total, was discovered in Jerusalem from the 7th century. Hoards clearly increase during periods of political instability, reflecting the same human reaction we witness today during economic declines. People begin to save more and curtail their spending whenever the future becomes uncertain. So it matters not what period we are looking at, the human reaction is always the same. These hoards provide important data over the course of centuries and have filled in tremendous amount of data from which to build real viable economic models. Let's see. Historians have also recorded wages, so we have far more statistics than most people are familiar with these days. This allows us to look at not just wages, but the unfunded pensions that were promised to the military back then. And he has a chart that starts off on year 6, payroll 68. By the year 166 to 170, the payroll turned into 100. By the year 230, the payroll was 236. For year 6, retirement benefits were 29. By the year 230, 107. Equipment and supplies at the year 6 were 27. By 2030, we're 95. So everything is just going up and up and up. More and more funding liabilities that can't be met. Who does that sound like today? Which country specifically does that really sound like today? We just had a pension problem. We was that in Michigan or Wisconsin, wherever the hell that was recently. You know, they're protesting and pensions and this and that. State of Florida, they just passed a law saying that they're going to have to contribute to their own pensions. It used to be completely citizen-based, us bozo sheep contributing to the pensions of the government employees, and apparently that has now changed, in Florida at least, to where they have to now contribute to their own pensions as well. Cassius Dio, wrote about 80 books covering the history of Rome. Historians have generally agreed with him that the peak of the Roman Empire took place during the reign of Marcus Aurelius, which is from 161 to 180 AD. Cassius wrote, quote, "Our history now descends from a kingdom of gold to one of iron and rust, as did the affairs of the Romans of that day." Speaking of a kingdom of gold to one of iron and rust, I think what he's talking about potentially was probably, potentially anyways, infrastructure that couldn't be fixed, couldn't be repaired. It's rusting, it's rotting away, and we're off on these great wars, expanding the Roman Empire, and our entire infrastructure is completely falling apart, and nobody's fixing it because we don't have the money to do that. You could get that out of that little statement, possibly. And that's interesting because that's exactly where we are today in this country. Our infrastructure is terrible. If you look at that show on TV, I cannot think of the name of it. Guy goes around checking bridges, structures, all kinds of stuff, and failing them off the chart. Like, this is incredible. Like, this, you shouldn't even be driving on this bridge right now, kind of thing. Well, we don't have the money to repair this. You know, we don't have the budget right now. We're trying to get money from the federal government. We don't have it. That's what the mayor and the town folks are telling this guy. That's exactly what I got out of that statement. Back to this PDF. While I have shown this chart many times, what I have not explained is the single largest reason behind the debasement. True, it was Augustus, from 27 BC to 1480, who first established a personal guard known as the Praetorian Guard, which he paid at twice the wages of the regular army. They were to be in a constant state of readiness to protect his person and to ensure that the rebellion would be crushed. However, the people would not tolerate kings or a police state. Thus, the number of these guards within the city walls was limited to just 3 cohorts, which during the early republic was about 480 men. And during the 1st century AD had become 800 men. With the murder of Commodus from 180 to 192 AD, and the auctioning off of the office of emperor by these guards, who saw themselves as above even the army, the decline and fall was in full motion. The civil war that was unleashed necessitated the victor, Septimius Severus, from 193 to 211 AD, to sharply increase the pay to those guards soldiers and to relax their discipline to secure their favor. A vicious downward spiral unfolded. The greater the threat of political instability, the higher the military pay rose. This expanded the cost of government and facilitated a spiral of inflation, forcing the government to debase the coinage and increase the money supply. The decline and fall of Rome was driven by the unfunded guarantee of pensions, and like Social Security today, there was nothing actually put aside. This is incredible. The history is right there. If you fail to learn history, you are doomed to repeat it. During the Republican days, 25 denarii paid 52% of the cost of his family's annual needs for grain. That's some type of money system, like a copper or something. I don't know what kind, or brass or something. I forget what 25 denarii equals. It's whatever. It'll actually explain it in a minute. So anyways, during the Republican days, 25 denarii paid 52% of the cost of his family's annual needs for grain. By the 3rd century AD, it would take 6,000 denarii to create the same standard of living. Inflation was the result, not the source, which was the fiscal mismanagement of Rome. Under Julius Caesar and Augustus, they established new pay standards, whereas donatives, or bonuses, and that's what I'm going to call it, bonuses, to the military were paid in gold auri, which is some kind of gold coin. Such bonuses paid to the troops were actually the spoils of war. The expansion, destroying civilizations, destroying cities of other countries, sovereign nations, taking their goods and money and gold and everything else in order to pay the bill to their own people and soldiers so that they can continue doing this. Who does that sound like today? Which country has over 180 plus bases in other countries? Which country has an embassy in practically every country on the face of the earth? Which country keeps going to war like in Iraq, Afghanistan, and building these massive embassies and new buildings for our own government, but it's not really called our government, it's just like this billion-dollar building that's, you know, who's that for? Which country has a CIA type of network who make sure they get paid top dollar, kind of like these special guards they had? And to keep their trust, we keep making sure they're paid handsomely. All government employees, for that matter, are paid handsomely. The same IT position that I have in my company, had I been working for the government right now, I could expect almost double what I get paid today. And I get a pretty decent salary. I'm actually quite happy with it. Not doing anything else, more or less. I just happen to work for a government organization. If that was the case, I would be able to say I'm making almost twice what I make now. Why? And I'll probably have some kind of pension system, retirement, some good stuff at the expense of the peasants. Which, in all honesty, I'm kind of a peasant too, even though I work for the government. But they're hooking me up, so I'm on the government side, right? That's how that would be. So, anyways. So these were gotten from the spoils of war. So this gradually was transformed into expected benefits. So now they expect benefits automatically, even when there were no spoils of war to be had. Tiberius and Caligula transformed bonuses from rewards paid out of booty into regular bonuses. Now why would they do that? They want to get the vote. I want to be the man. I want to be the leader. I'll tell you anything you want to hear, and I'll even make good on it, at least to begin with, to get that seat of power. Even though it is guaranteed to destroy the country, destroy the empire, I'll do it so I can get in power. That same thinking then, 2,000 years ago, is no different than today. Truly amazing how history can work like that. Everything, as I always say, everything stays the same except technology. That's it. So, let me see where I left off here. So, when the new emperor came to power, they bought the loyalty of the troops, paying a bonus upon their ascension to the throne. Each paid donatives or bonuses of 50 million denarii by matching 25 million denarii in testamentary gifts of his predecessor. Now the praetorians, or these guards, regularly received 10 gold auri. The other troops and the urban cohorts were paid half this amount. The regular army legionnaires received 3 gold auri each. Claudius, in 41 AD, paid the Praetorian Guard 150 gold per man after the assassination of Caligula. These guards thus received about 35 million of this gold, and the rest of the army was paid nearly 50 million. So the small group of elite guys got 35 million. But the rest of the massive army combined was paid nearly 50 million. Who does that sound like today? Except take away these special guards and put in Wall Street, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, the owners of the Federal Reserve, the private bank in this country and the private banks in other countries. It's the same people who own all of them, or most all of them, who are easily these guys today. This was a vast amount of money to secure the political stability after the death of Caligula. These levels of donations, or bonuses, were becoming expected. In 54 AD, Nero offered similar bonuses on his ascension to the throne, and upon his assassination in the midst of now civil war, the contender Vitellius promised to his enlarged guard, now that there's larger guard amount of troops, bonuses totaling 88.8 million. Under the Flavian emperors Vespasian, Titus, and Domitian, I don't know how you pronounce that, they sought to reverse the trend, reducing the size of this guard of Rome, and imposed strict limits on these bonuses in an attempt to restore imperial fiscal solvency. With the reign of Trajan from 98 to 117 AD, the conquest model was re-established. He launched the invasion of Dacia into the Balkans. This greatly increased imperial revenues once again, and there was also the exploitation of new mines in those regions. So they took over their materials, their resources. Who does that sound like today? Oil in Iraq. Who got the contracts? These same guys. BP, Exxon, Shell. Using the New Age Roman Empire, aka America, as their stepping stool. They use us to do that. These guys are in charge. These are the guards in charge. Incredible. So, this increased the money supply, but it also was like a pauper winning the lottery. The ceremonial gift giving came back in full force, and once again became institutionalized between Nerva 96 to 98 AD and Commodus 180 to 192 AD. There were no less than 45 separate bonuses, totaling at least 567 million of these gold denaries, or about 22 million auries, or I guess the denarii is not the same one, 22 million auri according to surviving records. Upon the assassination of Commodus in 192 AD, these guards had become so corrupt that they now auctioned off the throne to the highest bidder. Who put up Obama? Who was one of Obama's largest backers during his campaign? Rockefeller. The same guys put up Obama and McCain. They back up both of their guys. It doesn't matter who wins. It's their guys. So as you just read here, these guards had become so corrupt that they now auctioned off the throne to the highest bidder. It's almost the same thing. Although Obama and McCain aren't necessarily bidding to get the throne. We want the throne. It's actually these guys, the real kings, so to speak, in the background, who are pulling the strings anyways. And once they get their guys in power, they can make anything happen. We'll give you bonuses. We're going to give you this. We're going to give you that. All we need you to do is sign the stuff we tell you to sign. And you're going to make a lot of money. As a senator as well, because the president can't just do anything. It's got to go through Congress and then the Senate, just like the Roman Senate. And you see them guys paid off left and right. We don't read bills. We don't do nothing. We just pass stuff. That's what we do. Don't care what's in it. How much money are you giving me for my campaign contribution, aka payoff? I'll pass that bill for you. That's all it's become today. Same thing. The most unfortunate soul only reigned for a few months. He was Didius Julianus, who promised a bonus of 25,000 sestertii to every man, or 6,250 silver denarii, or 250 gold auri. Upon his ascension to the throne, he instantaneously debased the silver denarius from 87% silver down to 81.5% fineness, as the weight declined from 2.75 grams to 2.40 grams to pay the bills. Who does that sound like today? We need to raise the debt ceiling. We need quantitative easing. Do I need to really say who that is? You know who that is. United States. The civil war that was unleashed with the death of Commodus brought Septimius Severus to the throne. This new dynasty, over the course of the next 43 years, distributed 12 bonuses amounting to at least 431 million denarii, or 17 million gold auri. Bonuses to retain power to the urban plebeians reached almost 1 billion denarii, or 40 million gold auri. The amount paid to the legionnaires was at the same level. The finances of Rome, paid to the government employees, bankrupted the state, for they did not produce income, but rather consumed wealth. This is the difference between private workers and those employed by government. One produces economic growth, while the other is a public servant consuming the wealth generated by others. Man, is that a perfect statement. Ooh. The inflation that was unleashed by the debasement of the currency was unprecedented historically. To put this in perspective, at the time of Julius Caesar, which was 100 to 44 BC, when he was rising to power, he was funded by the richest man, Crassus, in Rome, of Spartacus fame, whose wealth was placed at 200 million sestertii. That was a sum equal to 50 million denarii, or 2 million gold auri. By the mid-3rd century, denarii were bronze and were reduced to, at best, 1/50th of its value. The debasement in Rome was widespread. Here is Table 1.2 illustrating the debasement of the provincial currency in Egypt. Here we see that the decline from 13.22 to 7.47 grams, but the fineness declined 16.54% of silver to 0.5%. This was all driven by the rising cost of government employee and the unfunded liabilities of retirement at 2/3 their base pay. Consequently, we have a lot more in common with Rome than meets the eye. The cost of government destroyed Rome. The same problem of unfunded liabilities is precisely what is undermining our future. There could be a resolution, but it will take serious reform, and there is just no appetite for that at this time now, is there? Thus, identifying the problem is critical. This is the primary problem we face. Unless we deal with this issue, we are doomed. We can argue about the Federal Reserve, the gold standard, and a host of other issues, but those are nothing in comparison to this one single issue. We can cut spending and yell and scream all you want, but that does not solve the problem, for you cannot cut enough. Very true. Every penny cut will only be replaced with spending on promised entitlements. End of the story. I hope you enjoyed that story. Not because it sounds like you have a pleasant future coming in the near future, because you don't. But I hope you enjoyed that story for its historical reference to Rome versus now, and how extremely close they are. Again, except for technology. That's the only difference. Technology is the only difference. So, we have a lot to look forward to if you like a lot of doom in the near future. I don't, even though some people call me Dr. Doom. Yeah, I'm far from actually wanting that, but at the same time, I understand it has to come and it has to end that way, because history is a historical cycle that repeats itself. Even though we are smart, we're human beings, we have the capability to look at past things, ancient artifacts, writings, teachings, and as it said in the beginning, we're so arrogant to think, man, that was back then. We're way smarter than those guys, right? These guys on Wall Street, Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, Timothy Geithner, Ben Bernanke, the Ben Bernanke. They think, oh, that's, this is, we got a printing press today. This is totally different. Only thing changes is technology. History will repeat itself. Humans will be humans. They are very predictable. Like anything you study for a while, it can be predictable. So we pretty much know how this ends. So if you were, during the Roman days, collecting the coins, the gold and silver coins then, before they got devalued and before they took 20% silver in a coin and turned it down to half of 1%, if you have one of the old coins versus one of the ones that was 0.5% of silver, you had a lot of store of wealth just in that one coin. So back then, if I was around and Pastor Dawa was around, we would be out there telling people, hold on to your old silver coins. Kind of like now we've got the pre-1964 coins, right? The quarters and the dimes. A little tiny dime, 10 cents, can sell for $3.50 to sometimes $4 an ounce right now today. You could buy a gallon of gas for 10 cents. You could buy a loaf, probably a couple of loaves of bread for 10 cents. As long as that 10-cent dime you have happens to be 1964 or prior, then it is worth between $3 and $4. Pretty incredible. That right there shows you we've already just experienced a mini Roman Empire collapse when you can take 50, 60 years ago and see, hey, they had something then and now it's been devalued because a dime today is really 10 cents today in today's dollars. A dime from 50 years ago plus is worth $3 to $4. So what we would be doing is going to the sheeple of then Roman Empire, who wouldn't have any listen to us. What are you talking about? We're Rome. We've got the greatest structures. We've got the Colosseum. We've got the most high advanced technology. Yeah, but we're like raping and pillaging people in other countries. Oh, you unpatriotic son of a gun, get out of Rome. That's what would be told to us. But we would still be telling the people who are willing to listen, the very, 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 very few, tiny amount of Romans 2,000 years ago, if we were there, you got these older coins, don't lose them. Hang on to them. Matter of fact, go ahead and bury them. You know, back then they didn't really have a safe, so go ahead and bury them in a little safe spot. And over the next several years, or whatever, you're going to see that thing get devalued significantly. The new stuff. So hang on to your old coins, right? Hang on to your pre-64 coins. Or back then, if we have to kick it old school, hang on to your pre-64 BC coins, right? 64 before Christ coins. And then after Christ, they'll be worth a fortune. Complete fortune. Kind of like today. Except things are speeding up. We're not going to have to wait a 200 or 300 year period for the collapse like Rome did when it started. Time, everything, as we all know, time speeds up, things are speeding up, everything's happening faster and faster and faster thanks to technology. So you can send a thought right now. When I'm done uploading this video, when I'm done doing this video, I could upload it immediately to YouTube, and within an hour after it's done processing, the entire world can actually go there and watch it. Of course, with 2,000 subscribers, yeah, the whole world's not watching, but they could. That's the point. Technology. So things are going to happen faster, as you already see. They are happening faster. Nothing changes but technology. That's the end of the story. This is the Roman Empire rising and falling. America is now the Roman Empire. We've expanded. Now we can't pay the bills. Same with Rome. I mean, this is a fantastic PDF, and the name of it is What Destroyed Rome, 5/18/2011. Search for that on Google. You'll probably find the site, and you can download it, have a little copy for yourself. It's a fantastic read. And as I said, the unfunded liabilities was the thing that I didn't know about the Roman Empire that really hurt them and caused a significant part of the destruction to occur in the collapse of the Roman Empire. If not the sole purpose, actually, if you think about it. So, where are we at today? We need to raise the debt from 14.3 to another 2.4 trillion on top of that. But we want you to pass this bill, and there's nothing in the bill that says we're going to cut spending or cut this or do that. We're just going to leave it the same, leave it as it is right now. But we want you to pass this bill, Congress and Senate, so that we can have a little wiggle room. 16-point-something trillion. Thank God the bozos in Congress did not pass that bill. But get ready for probably markets to crash, because these bankers are sitting back saying, hey, we told Geithner to tell you guys to raise the budget. The Godfather told you guys to raise the budget and you didn't listen. Well, the Godfather's not happy. And the Godfather, aka banking elite, are now going to teach the American people and the government, especially the government, who's in charge. And I wouldn't be surprised if they collapse the market very soon to say, hey, we told you had to raise that deficit and you didn't do it. Now we destroyed everyone's 401ks and pensions and everything else. Financial terrorism at its finest. That's what that is. So, anyways, done talking. Hope you enjoyed this. Have a nice day or night.